Hi again then guys, and welcome to another installment of Dirtmasters Unplugged. And for any who are perhaps newer to this series, basically what we do here is we take a car, typically a road car, and we turn it into a racing, particularly rallying version of that model. Maybe it's a car that doesn't have a rallying counterpart, or maybe it does, but we just want to try something new. Maybe turn it into a Pikes Peak style machine, or a WRC style machine, or just a rallycross car, or maybe even a homologation special. Now this particular vehicle, as far as I'm aware, doesn't exist in real life. It's based on the Mini Marcos, which is one of my personal favourite classics. I absolutely love this car. And the Mini Marcos is, as the name suggests, based on the Mini Cooper. It's got the same 1275 GT engine, of course, and basically the main difference is the body, which is a little bit more aerodynamic. Now, the Mini, of course, was a legend in the Monte Carlo Rally. Why then don't we have a Monte Carlo Marcos? Well, that's the purpose of this build. Now, the Monte Carlo Mini, as far as I'm aware, doesn't have a huge amount of power. That wasn't what gave it its victories, it was just the overall package, the lightweight character and the handling. This car is based on that concept, so we haven't got insane power, but you can if you want to. Now as far as the visuals, I've just painted it red. That's all I've done to it. So we'll go over first of all to the mechanical side of things, and then of course finally take it out to a dirt track. Now we have built a Monte Carlo style build for the Mini, the classic style Mini, so this is kind of a counterpart to that, but with slightly more of a sporty image. It's obviously a lot rarer than the Mini as well. I believe only around 1,300 Mini Marcoses were made, making it the most successful in terms of production of any Marcos. And personally I love pretty much every car that they've ever made. Now, as I said, you can increase the power on this one if you so choose. This isn't a replica, it's purely a pie-in-the-sky build, so basically build it to whatever spec you want. I wanted it to be a little underpowered to make it a little more realistic to what the car would have felt were it real at the time, and also just because having a slow car can sometimes be fun. Now I've gone for dirt tyres of course, or snow, if that's where you choose to take it. As far as suspension, we've got the ride height as high as possible. Springs I've got on 420 front and rear, the dampers and anti-roll to 2 all round, neutral camber and toe. We'll come back to the gearbox in just a second, as we usually do. For the diff, I've got the lowest initial torque, the highest acceleration and braking to help with turn-in and keep the steering nice and loose, because of course, as good as it was at the time, front-wheel drive rally cars don't really age that well compared to how good modern all-wheel drive ones feel. Which is obvious, of course they're not going to. So you have to kind of counteract that and make the front-wheel drive as good as possible. Now as far as power, as I said, I'm running low power. All I've got is an oil change, and then I've reduced it down a little bit just to get it to 400 pp. And also, speaking of the pp, obviously the weight has a direct bearing on that, and we've got the full weight loss package. Now finally for the gearbox, obviously it's not a top speed build at all, so we've got an auto setting of 87 miles per hour, then I've gone for individual gears of 4, 2850, 2150, 1700 and 1425 with a final drive of 3.4. It's a very close ratio gearbox, you get through the gears pretty quickly, but with 76 horsepower, that's what you'd want. So that's it overall for what I've done for the build, with plenty of room as always for personal variation. So now let's take it out on the dirt to see if it's as good, which it should be, as its predecessor, the Mini. Now overall, being as it is very low on the power side of things, of course it's not going to be as breakneck fast as some of my Pikes Peak style builds, or even compared to some of my WRC builds. But with a car like this, for me at least, that's not really the point. It's more just about the fun of having a tiny, lightweight, low-powered car in a similar way to the fun of Japanese K cars, which we've also discovered in this series make great rally cars, and just having fun with that. You don't need overall speed to have fun. There are plenty of cars that prove that. The Mazda MX-5 in real life is a great example, as is a personal favourite of mine, the Fiat Panda 100 HP. They prove that you don't need insane performance to have a huge amount of fun. Whereas a lot of the builds in this series can be used for competition, this one isn't really designed for that. This is just designed for nostalgia, technically it doesn't exist, but it feels nostalgic nonetheless, and for the fun factor. So if you do decide to use it, obviously I hope you find it fun, first and foremost, and potentially useful for racing, especially if you increase the power, of course. And if you'd like to keep up with other builds like this, be sure to hit subscribe down below, or to check out ones that we've already done in this series and others as well, you can click through to the playlists at the end of this video. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.